Welcome everyone. In today's video, we're going to be making our very first platformer. Hopefully, this is your first game. So if this is your first game, this is what we're going to be making. So we can click play. There's our player, and we should be able to jump over obstacles. And once I hit one, it goes back to the main menu. We will just do this. That's it. All right, so let's get started. First thing we're going to do is create a new project. So I'm going to do it in mobile because it does work with desktop and we don't need any amazing 3D graphics. I've created a new file name for it. So let's create an edit and it'll just take a second to pop up. And there are a few things we're going to switch up in our settings. So let's go to project settings. The first thing we're going to find is filter, if you can spell it right, unlike me. So we can go to texture and set the default texture to, let me find out. This is my reference, filter. If you can spell it right, please. Filter, I don't know if I even spelled it right. Yeah, okay, this is the one we want. The default to nearest. So we switch that to nearest. And the reason we do this is because now when I bring in a sprite, it is not pixelated. There we go. So now we have non-pixelated sprites. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to import our file, Pixel Adventures. I will put this in the description below for anyone who wants it, whoever wants to download it. And yeah, let's get started. So let's create a 2D scene. Let's create main menu. Let's save it. And then let's make another one. There we go. 2D scene, and this will be world. We'll save this as well, just in our main scene. That's okay. And then in our main menu, we're going to put two things: texture react or rectangle, and then a button. So the button is going to allow us to go from our main menu to the other scene. Yeah, and then our texture react, we can go into our file here, go to free, background, and you can pick out whatever texture you want. I'll do purple this time. And then for the stretch mode, we're going to put on tile because you can see if we try to stretch it, let's actually stretch it. It just stretches out the texture, right? But if I put it on tile, right, it'll tile out the texture we got, which is what is quite useful with this node, texture rectangle. And then for the button, we'll rename it to play button, and we save it. We'll create a script for our main menu. We'll put it up there on our node. We'll connect our pressed button to that node. And then in our button pressed, all we're going to do is one line of code. So we're going to get tree. If you don't know what tree is, I can actually show you real quick Actually, I'll show you right after we get this. So we'll change scene to file world. And this will allow us to just change our scene to the world. So the get tree, if I play, we're going to select current for the main menu. I'll show you how to change that later. Oops, it didn't pop up for some reason. And now if I click this, it'll go to our world, which there's nothing in it, but we can now change scenes. So when I play, I can go to remote to see what's happening. So get tree gets us to get this entire tree. And then we're just going to change the scene to this file because right now we're on the main menu and we just want to change it. So if I go back to my game and I click it, you can see that it switches to world. Awesome. And now we want to add some stuff in our world. So let's work on the background, the cool background that moves. So to do this, there's something called parallax background. This basically just allows us to have a parallax background in the sense that things are moving in it, right? And to use that, we can use parallax layers. So let's put two layers. In the first one, we're going to put a texture rectangle. And then in the second one, we're going to put a tile map. Okay, in our texture rect, this is pretty easy. We just go to inspect here, texture, and we'll put, let's put a different one actually. How about gray? And then we go to tile, and boom, we now have a nice background. We can save this as DG, and I'll just save in the main file. I'll save everything in the main file because there's not too many things. And then we'll go to the tile map. And so tile map has changed in Godot 4. If you are new to Godot 4, that's okay. That's good actually, because now you're learning from scratch instead of relearning it. But we're just going to do what I just did. Go to empty, new tile set on the top right. Click that, make a new tile set. And now on the bottom, we will have tile set, tile map. Tile map will be everything that we put in our tile set, essentially. So let's actually just do it and you'll kind of understand it. So let's find our tile set first. So it should be in terrain. Here we go, terrain, and we're just going to drag that in. The atlas texture was modified. Would you like to automatically create tiles in the atlas? And we're just going to say yes, because I don't want to. because doing it myself is kind of a hassle. All right, and so now we have a bunch of things. So let me explain kind of what is happening. So in the tile set, it allows us to edit things. I can edit a specific tile by just clicking on it, or not. I can go into here though. I should be able to add a physics layer, for example, go into here and edit it by clicking this. And now, for example, I can add physics to it. There are other things. We're not going to add physics layer to this. There's terrain sets. There's one I've used before, which is pretty cool, is no, you know what? I think it was just physics layer. Physics layer is quite useful, so you can always use that. But we're going to use something different to use collision in our game. But you can use this, actually. If you want to figure that out, go for it. If not, we'll keep following along with what I'm doing. Okay, so now let's draw out our tile set, or tile map. So let's first make this invisible. So we have a blank slate. Let's turn on our grid, and actually, let's change the project settings. One more thing. We're going to go to Window, and we're going to turn on Advanced Settings. And we're going to copy this over here. And then for viewport, let me pull out my reference, see what I have. Go to Window. Yeah, here we go. We have 600 by 300. So let's close that. 600 by 300. And this will just allow us to change our viewport to make it a lot smaller. There we go. It just took a second to update. So now if I make this visible again, you can see how big it changed. So it's almost half the size. All right, so let's just make it fit this screen. And then let's make it invisible again, go to our tile map. And now what we can do is in our tile map here, we can start to paint on our thing. You can use whatever you want. Let me actually use a different one. We'll use the orange one here. And here we can start to draw. So an easy way to draw with tile map in Godot is if I hold shift before I click, I just hold shift, I click, and then I drag. And boom, I can now draw out things, which is quite useful. And then we're going to add the dirt. So we're going to add dirt down here, and then we're going to go hold shift, go all the way over. And then there's also a bucket here that we can just fill, and it'll allow us to do that a lot quicker. You might want to try doing this, which is quite cool. You can add like a few random things here, make it pretty, whatever you want. And now comes the fun part. So the parallax layer will allow us to mirror this. So what that means is we can go here and see that it ends at 601, right? If I zoom in all the way, it ends at 601. So now I can go here to the mirror and go to the x-axis and say 608. Sorry, not 601, 608. I'm being silly. You could also do 600, technically, right? So you could end it like at 600 off the screen, but 608 would be better. In fact, if you're doing physics, or if you're adding physics layers, this is probably pretty important. Otherwise, it might bug out. But in our case, it won't matter. I'll show you why in a second. All right, so now let's actually make this move, because if I launch, nothing happens, right? It doesn't move. So let's change that. Let's first go here, and we'll just add our background into our world. And let's see what it looks like when I do this. So I play, and boom, and something is not right. I remember. Okay, so in our project settings, there's a few other things. The viewport, we have to change this to viewport. And that is it, actually. Yeah, so we want to change the mode to viewport. So now, when I go here, I change it's a lot more zoomed in. There we go. Let's go to our main menu and actually move our button a little bit. And let's resize this. There we go. And let's write play on here. There we go. World. Let's go to our background and make this visible again. And as you can see, though, nothing was moving. So there's an easy thing we can add. So let's add a built-in script to our background. Let's delete the ready function. We don't need that. And then all we're going to say is variable scrolling speed equals 40 for now, for example. You can pick whatever speed you want in reference to whatever you want, but we'll just do 40 for now. And then what we can say is scroll offset dot x minus equals, because we want it to go this way, so we're going to subtract. We want it to go backwards in the view of like the camera. I guess it would be this way. But yeah, I'm going to do scrolling speed times delta. There we go. And now let's try it. Let's see what we got. So now when I play, everything moves, which is awesome. There's one thing I forgot though. We have to duplicate this guy too. So we have to do mirror 608. Ooh, not 608, just 600 actually, because it ends at 600. There we go. But now, if I play, whoops, there we go. It is now moving, which is awesome. However, it doesn't really feel right. It feels awkward. There's also that, but I'm not going to ignore that. What we can do to make this feel a bit cooler is we can mess with the scaling. So the scaling will allow it to move slower. So we can change this to 2, play, and it'll move faster than the one in the back, right? So the scale, I've scaled it quite a bit more. So you can make this like 1.5, and then maybe, for example, we can make this one 0.5, right? But yeah, that's it. So we can do that. We can also, maybe let's try extending this here, and then let's go to parallax, do 608. You can kind of mess around with the tiles and see what it looks nice, so it doesn't look awkward when it mirrors. I think that's good. So 608 is fine. Okay, so now we have a nice background. Let's add other things. So we want to add our player. So let's close the background for now. Let's go to our world. And let's just add a player. So to add a player, there's actually bodies that we can add. So there's rigid body, character body, animated body, and static body. We're going to use character body. And Godot has recently actually added something. Let's add a collision so we don't get an error. They have added something quite cool. Let's make a capsule. And let's change the position of this guy. So by going to transform, we'll do 400 by 200. No, we'll do 200 by, I don't know, 300. There we go. Okay, 100. There we go. So now our player's kind of in the middle. He starts in the middle. And let's add a script. Actually, let's not add a script yet. Let's rename this guy, the player. And then let's add a script. So we'll not have it built in. So Godot has added something quite cool. There is now a template that we can add. There is the basic movement, node, and empty object. The basic movement is actually exactly what we need. So let's just create that. And bam, we're done. That is literally it. That is our game. So now we have a player that moves. Let's add a sprite by just adding this guy in for now. And now if I play, our body does not move. Why is that? Let's see. Grounded. Physics. That is strange that our body is not falling. Oh, I know why. Because our sprite's not in the player. There we go. Now our sprite's following the player, and the player was falling. Okay. Another thing we can do is we can go to debug. We can say visible collision shapes, and this will just allow us to see the collision shapes inside the game when it's playing. You can't see it there, but yeah. Okay, so now let's actually add a floor. So let's go to our background, and we'll add it in here. The way we can do that is we can add a static body, and then to that, we'll just add a collision shape. And then here we'll do rectangle because we want a floor. And then we'll just make a floor. And we'll make it right on top of our actual floor. And there's no need to mirror this. In fact, if you try mirroring it, it might bug out. So I would recommend not mirroring it. To make this more efficient or accurate, we can turn off the grid and just snap it downwards a little bit. So there we go. We have a nice floor. It's constantly there, so we can close our background again. And if we play, we can now jump up and down. In fact, we can move right and left as well. But actually, we're not going to get it to move right and left. So let's go to our player, and we're going to take out the direction stuff. So all this. So we can handle jump and gravity, and that's it. So if you want to understand this, let's quickly explain it. So we have speed. It's just the speed of our player. We have jump velocity and gravity, which is set from our project settings. It gets it from the settings, right? And then inside of our physics process, we're going to check if we're on the floor or if not on the floor, meaning we're flying, right? So if we're in the air, we want to be pushing down, meaning this is gravity. So add the gravity. So if we're not on the floor, we want to push our character downwards to the ground, right? So this adds gravity once we're in the air. Once we click UI accept, which is a set in our project settings. So if you want to change that, you can go to input map. And if we set show built-in actions, you can see everything here. We can filter, so accept. So we have enter, space, KP, enter. I actually don't know what that is, but you can add things by doing this. Let's say W, keyboard keys. Yeah, physical key, add, Windows, I don't know. But that should work. I don't know. I'm not going to explain that too much, but you can add things there. Once it is, and we're on the floor, then we'll jump, right? So we're going to make it equal to the jump velocity, which is just negative 400, right? And then we're going to move and slide, which is a built-in function that Godot has. You can look into it more by actually doing control and then left click, and it'll pop that up. Awesome. Let's continue. So let's delete this icon. We don't need that. And let's add an animated sprite. So this will allow us to animate a sprite essentially. So to do that, go to animation on the top right. We go to our frames. We click new sprite frames. We go into it, and we now have a bunch of animations. This one will just be run. And then we can go to our characters. We have a bunch of main characters. Let's add a virtual guy. And let's put jump. Or we found it, but we can't do that. So we have to actually go into here. Okay, let me actually redo that. We have to click this little guy, the little square thing. We'll go into the main characters, go to virtual guy, and we find the run. We open it, and if we zoom in by control zooming in, we go to vertical 1 because there's only one frame on vertical, and then there should be 12 frames. So now we can just select all of them by select all and add 12 frames, and then for our speed, we can do 15. And now on our top right, we can play, and there you go. Our player is now running on the screen. So now when I play the game, I can jump, and our player is always running. There we go. Awesome. We have a nice working game. But now we want to add obstacles and things that spawn randomly to make the game more engaging, right? Because we want an actual game, not just a player running on the screen, right? That's a bit weird. So the first thing we're going to do is add a timer. We'll come back to that. But now we're going to make our obstacle. To make it, we're going to add a area 2D. Let's bring this down a little bit so I have more space. In our area 2D, let's see. Let's find an obstacle that we want to use. Let's go to maybe traps. And we can do like fire. Oh, no, let's not do fire. Yeah, sure. Actually, let's do this one. Yeah, let's do this one. In fact, that'll actually be an animated sprite. So let's make an animated sprite real quick. Let's go to here, new sprite, pop that in. We'll go here to traps. It was in fire. Bring this guy in. It should be 3 and 1, 3 and 1, not 4 and 1. So now if I zoom in, I can now select all 3. And boom, we now have an animated sprite. Let's pop that up to the top. We'll just do 10. And then we can play it. And there we go. That's a bit too fast, actually. Let's do 5. Yeah, there we go. That's our animated sprite. This will be our obstacle. Obstacle, if I can type. We'll save in the main scene. And then in our area 2D, we're going to have to add a collision. So let's add that. Collision shape. Let's add a rectangular shape. We don't want the fire to hurt you, just the object itself. All right, and then in the area 2D, we'll just add a built-in script. Actually, no, let's make it not built-in. Okay, in our script, all we're going to do is we're going to have a variable called velocity. Velocity, there we go, and a variable called speed. We'll do caps. No, we're not going to do caps, just speed. And the speed is going to be equal to 100, and the velocity is just going to be defaulted to vector 2, which is just going to be 0, 0. But then in our ready function, what we're going to do is we're going to say velocity is equal to negative speed and 0. So the 0 essentially means on the y-axis, we're not going to move at all, right? Because the obstacle, we want it to move horizontally. But on the horizontal, we want it to move to the left, like this way. Yeah, technically on my camera, it's opposite. But here we're just going to say vector 2, so we avoid that error. And yeah, that's it. So we're going to go at this speed, right? And then in our process function, we're just going to use a function called translate velocity times delta, I believe, right? Velocity times delta. Awesome. So now our object should move. However, there's one more thing we're going to do real quick. We're going to go into our node, and we're going to add a body entered. And then we're going to connect it. And then we're going to say if body.name equals player, then we're going to Q3. So this is going to destroy our player. Oops. But we actually have to destroy our player by saying body.Q3, not Q3, because Q3 will destroy the actual object. All right, let's save this. Let's go to our world, and now let's figure out a way to actually add them. So let's create a world script. Let's delete all this. Let me actually double check I don't need it. Yeah, I don't need any of it, so let's delete all that. And let's say constant variable, no, not constant variable, just constant obstacle equals preload. And we're going to preload our obstacle. So preload just means to essentially bring that node into our scene so that we can make it later. We're also going to make a variable called onReady variable timer equals here timer. There we go. So we've now just loaded our timer so we can access it at a later time. And then we're just going to go to our timer and say timeout and connect it to our main script. And once it does timeout, all we're going to do is create an obstacle. So the way we do that is we're going to say variable obstacle equals obst dot instantiate, and then just add child obstacle, and that allows us to add the child. So now we can add the child to the world every time the timer goes off. So if I play, it'll actually add it, but you can't see it. But if we go to remote, you should be able to see it not being added because our timer never started. So let's turn it on auto start. Let's play one more time. Let's play, and you should now be able to see them being added. So area 2D, those are our obstacles, but you can't see it. So how do we find out, or how do we get a way to actually add it? Or to see it, I guess. So let's change the position. So to do that, we can just call our obstacle and say dot position equals vector2. And the position I used was this, vector 500 and 225. So to figure out what position to use, for the x-axis, you have to go down here and find what position is down here. So on the ground, essentially. So for this one, it's 192.5. So we'll say that. 192.5. And then for the x-axis, sorry, for the y-axis, that's that. And then for the x-axis, I just guessed like 500 because I want them to start spawning at this point, and then they'll slowly start moving to the left, right? So if I play, here we go. They slowly start spawning in front of me. There we go. And now I can jump over them, and there we go. And then if I hit one, I disappear, right? So let's delete that or close that, and that should be it. Let's randomize it though a little bit. So if I want to randomize the spacing between the two, there's a quick little thing we can do by just saying timer.wait time is equal to random float from range 1 to 3. You can do any numbers you want, but this will just reset the timer to a random range between 1 and 3, right? So that way we can have a different spawn rate essentially. So now when I play, it kind of gives the illusion that the spawn rate between the two are different, right? And so it'll kind of randomize that, right? And so you can use whatever range you want, but I just chose 1 and 3 because why not? You can do 1 and 2, whatever you want, right? And it's a float, so you could actually do like 1 to 2.5 if you want, or 2.2. So it's up to you, really. And that's it. So for the obstacle, that's it. Last thing we're going to do is we're going to actually, instead of dying, we're just going to change our scene. So get tree dot change file scene to main menu. However, I actually don't like the main menu, so let's change that. So let's duplicate this by Control D, go to main menu and say defeated with an E, without the D. And then let's go here and then change that. So let's take this out. And let's pop this out here. There we go. There it is. And it'll change it to our defeated scene. But in here, I want to add a label. And in this label, it would say, you lost, press play to try again. And we can just pop this in. Let's put our grid out. And let's pop this all the way here. And then we can just center it on both of them. And we can just kind of put it right there. And then for our button, I'll kind of move it in the middle a little bit. And then our main scene, I can do the same thing. Let's add a label. And then let's kind of drag it out here. Let's center it for both and say, welcome to my amazing game. And then let's center our button a little bit. All right, and let's play. Last one. So welcome to my amazing game. This is our main menu. I can play, and I can jump up and down, and go over them, etc. And then if I hit it, I lost, and it says you lost. Press play to try again. Awesome. We have made a game within 25 minutes. This is very cool. I hope you guys learned something. We actually went through quite a bit of stuff. I hope you weren't overwhelmed. I hope you paused the video quite a bit and kind of learned some stuff. But if you guys enjoyed this video, give me a thumbs up in the comments down below as well. Leave a comment. You can follow me on Twitch. Give me a sub as well. All that good stuff. There's a bunch of links in the comments or in my description. If you guys want the asset, that will be in the description as well. I also linked the Godot 4 beta link, so you can download this. So Godot 4 is in beta still. The third version of it came out. But you can download it still, and it's still kind of buggy, but it still works. So I would definitely recommend start learning it. Especially if you're new, I would recommend just downloading Godot 4 before 3, because 3 is gonna become obsolete soon. So yeah, do that. If this is your first coding video, I am happy you guys lasted, and I hope you guys learned something. But yeah, that's it. I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.